We are back. New York baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko. My co-host is Marty Rose and Robert Denninger. Robert's not here tonight. Marty is. How you doing, Mert?
I'm doing fine. How's everybody?
Oh, everybody's well. I'm
Good.
about to blow up Comcast. I don't know if you guys deal with
yes,
them.
I have to deal with them as well, yes.
They're terrible, and just wanted to give them a little plug from me, the man I love. Our guest, Marty and I want to tell you, Peter, are originally Met fans from 1961 when they were formed. They didn't start playing until 62. We go way back. So we're anxious to talk to you on the air. Peter Falcone.
Yes.
How are you?
Mm-hmm. I'm fine, thank you.
Good. We both have fond memories of you as a Met, and I want to know if you have as fond a memory of being a Met as we have of you. You were gutsy and a native New Yorker, which is always cool. What do you think about playing in front of the people that you grew up with?
Ooh, boy. If you remember, I'm sure you do, those years were tough for the Mets organization. Being back home in Brooklyn.
You mean the ones from 62 to the present?
Well,
It means the years Pete played there.
The years that I played there.
I guess I know now. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the years that I played there, I'm trying to think. It was like 79 was my first year, and I played through 82. Then I went to Atlanta. Mm-hmm. But those 4 years I played there, we finished last place, I think, every year. I think we did. I'm pretty sure we did. And we had good talent and good players, but, we just couldn't compete with the National League East back then continually through the whole season. I mean, we beat up on everybody, but most of the time they beat up on us. And it was at times it was a real struggle. But of course, you're a major league player. What's the struggle when it comes down to it? You're not really suffering.
Your manager was Joe Torre.
Yeah, most of the time I was there, and then Joe got fired, and George Bamberger took over, and that was the last year, and that was 82 when I was there.
Wow.
Still finished last.
Yeah.
Right. This is before Torre became a genius.
That's right.
Yeah,
I think those hard years there really taught him how to be a manager. Have a lot of patience.
Well, maybe you can tell me about the players that they acquired for Seaver. I mean, all of them, I liked really going in, all of them. The pressure on Zachary was immense to replace him. Dougie Flynn was terrific. Henderson and Norman didn't quite pan out the way one would have hoped. But the big pressure was on Zachary, and it was replacing Seaver, the franchise. Can you tell me something about Tom Zachary as you remember him?
It's Pat Zachary.
Pat Zachary, I'm sorry.
Yes. Well, when he was traded to the Mets, I was not there. I was traded to the Mets in '79 for Tom Grieve. But Pat Zachary and Henderson and those guys, they went there the year before in '78, if I recall. When I got there, Pat was already established in the starting rotation. And I don't think he ever felt that. I know Pat Zachary personally. I speak to him once in a while. As a matter of fact, he had not to mention that he had a very, 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 very bad car accident about 6-7 months ago in his hometown in Texas, and his wife was killed in the car accident. And very sad times. Very sad time for Pat Zachary. Yeah. But I knew Pat Zachary very, very well. I still do. He never that I remember now, and this is a long time ago now, when I came there, I was just, the New York guy, but getting to know Pat Zachary, I don't think he ever really felt like he had big shoes to fill that I can recall. I don't know. I might be totally wrong. But he was not, at the time, he was not the top pitcher that everybody looked to. Craig Swan was.
Mm-hmm.
Craig Swan was the guy that really, took on the leadership role in the rotation but Pat Zachary was like number 2, and I was like number 3 behind, them two when I joined the rotation with other guys, Kevin Coble and, other guys. That
young Mike Scott. Mike Scott showed up on the scene.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mike Scott came in, I think, the next year. I don't remember exactly how it all, the chronological order of everything. I don't know. But, Pat Zachary came from the big red machine. The next thing you know, he's playing for the hapless Mets. That's the way it was, But I don't remember him being the kind of guy that felt pressured and walking around and, I got to be this, I got to be that. You couldn't be that way in that team. You just had to you go out there and do the best you could possibly do, because we knew that Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Montreal were there in front of us, and we had to beat them. So we just had to take care of ourselves. It was survival mode,
I think you played with Lenny Randall.
I played against Lenny Randall.
Oh,
okay. Yes, but Lenny Randall was in the league. Of course, he was in Chicago when I went to the Mets. He was playing third base for the Cubs.
He's a friend of the show, and he is a great ambassador. He's terrific. And
great guy. Yes, sir.
When you were a kid, were you a Met fan or a Yankee fan?
Oh, I was a Yankee fan. I was a devout, bottom line Yankee fan. My dad was a big Yankee fan growing up in New York City to the DiMaggio days and to the 50s and 40s, and it was passed down to me. I couldn't stand the Mets. I was an American League fan until I played pro ball, honestly.
Wow. And you started with the Giants.
Started with the Giants in 73 out of junior college,
What was your first Met experience back in New York? How did that work? How was
you mean
it
as a player for the Mets?
Yeah, as a player. When you just first went back there, what was it like? How did they bring you in? How did they make you feel at home? What's it like being acquired by the Mets?
Let me think. At the time, the Mets were, in them years, they were in the process, I believe, being sold, if I recall correctly. About the time they were being sold, I think it was Fred Wilpon and those guys. I forgot the whole situation.
That's right.
So it was transition time. Yes. So in 79, when I got there, I was invited early to spring training because I came from St. Louis, where I was really in the doghouse. I can't put it any clearer than that. I had gone through a real tough 2 or 3 years, 3 years with St. Louis, where I completely came undone. And the Cardinals had sent me to Winter Ball in Puerto Rico to try to recoup, what my potential. So I went down there, and even in Puerto Rico, I didn't pitch well, so they released me in Puerto Rico. Next thing you know I come back to New York, back home to Brooklyn. I was living with my parents at the time, and I got a phone call. I forgot who called me. I think Joe Torre called me and told me they had traded for me. Now, I found out recently from an old pitching coach friend of mine, Claude Osteen, that they had tried to trade for me in spring training of 78, heads up for Craig Swan. Well, I was in St. Louis, and we shared the same stadium, if you recall, in St. Petersburg, Al Lang Field.
Yes.
Yes, and they were going to trade for me in the middle of spring training. Claude Osteen told me that. But he said, you went out there one day. They were going to they showcased me to the Mets to see if they really wanted me. And I went out there, and he said I struck out like 7 guys in like 3 innings. And then the Cardinals backed off, and they didn't trade me. But I had a miserable year in 78 with St. Louis. But after that season, they finally made the decision to trade me for Tom Grieve. When I went to New York, Joe called me, I believe, and he wanted me to go to spring training a month before everybody got there. And he was very, very gracious to me. The Mets were wonderful to me. They knew that I had lost a lot of confidence in myself, and they needed somebody to help draw me out to become what they expected me to be. And when I went down to spring training, it was probably it was about almost a month before everybody got there. They actually, believe it or not, Joe got a man who you might remember named Don McMahon. Don McMahon was my pitching coach.
Oh, absolutely. Great.
For the San Francisco
pitcher with the Braves in those great
Brooklyn
years.
man, a Brooklyn guy.
Yes.
A Brooklyn guy, honestly. And he was my pitching coach when I was a rookie with the Giants. And he really supported me, and he got me to be on the team on the Giants. He pushed me to make the team in '75, and I did really well in spring training as a rookie and I was a phenom. So he got me, and he helped me get there. So Joe Torre, actually, I'm sure they paid him to come all the way to Florida to work with me for almost a whole month to try to get me back to form I was when I was a rookie in my first couple of years in the big leagues. And I remember that, and I go, wow, this is really amazing. These people really want me to do well. And it excited me, and I got my confidence really back, and I was in great shape. I was throwing the ball really well. And, I had a pretty good spring training, if I recall. And, I think my first start for the Mets was against the Expos. And I was looking at it. Matter of fact, I was looking at it recently, and I pitched like 9 innings in the game, came out of the game 2-2. So that was my first experience as a Met. A lot of encouragement. And, back in those days, you had Rube Walker as the pitching coach. And right. Rube was a phenomenal person. I got to say, one of the most joyful men I've ever known in baseball. And he was always encouraging everybody. So I had no excuse, honestly. Man, the table was set for me, honestly, to be a New York Met.
Okay. How can you talk on the recent, and I don't know how recent it is, if it's been going on for the last 5-6 years, rash of arm injuries? Is it?
Oh boy! Oh my God!
I mean, everybody has an opinion. It is a mystery. Marty's opinion is the best one. Marty, tell Pete what you think about a 6-man rotation and how.
Well, yeah, I had just thought. I mean, other people have spoken about it as well, but it seems to me that when guys get extra rest, they always come back stronger. I notice it, especially after the All-Star break. Guys are refreshed. Yes. They come back. They're much stronger than before when they may have been dragging a bit. So what is wrong with a 6-man rotation? Of course, you have to have 6 good starters, which is a problem for a lot of teams. But if you had 6 good starters, what would be wrong with getting an extra day's rest as we go along through the season? Wouldn't you think that would be less stress on each guy?
Could be. I know that when I pitched in our time, we had a 5-man rotation. Some teams had a 4-man rotation, and it seemed to work out okay. But, Rube Walker did say this, and he used to tell us all the time. He goes, there's only so many pitches in your arm, Okay. And comparing the modern-day pitcher to the old pitcher, if you look at the stats and the longevity, what did those guys know back then that the guys in this era don't know? They don't. It's an enigma. It's an enigma. And I believe that could be the problem. I think the number one problem is possibly, and I'd offend some people. Weight training is one thing. Lifting weights as a pitcher, I think, is an anathema. I don't think it's a good idea. I think a pitcher should leave the weights alone. Another thing I noticed, too, because I work MLB now, and I'm on the field. I'm a replay man on the field. These guys come in there, and they're maxing out every pitch. They're max velocity all the time. And these guys are trained that way. I think the radar gun has been a negative for these guys in the long term. because you don't throw 95, 96, 93, 94 consistently. They, it's like, oh, who's this guy?
Right.
And that wasn't the way it was back then when I pitched. You didn't
like
have
some guys, like some guys never learn really how to pitch. They're just trying to overpower everybody.
Absolutely. And when I see, and I was talking to a guy last week in Houston, because I was at the Houston, I was working Houston, and a lot of pitchers today who are bigger and a lot stronger than we were. They land on, if you understand mechanics, a lot of pitchers today land on their front foot landing behind at home plate. When they drop their leg to land a throw, they're stiff-legged. They're not bent-legged. And I see a lot of pitchers, maybe that's taught today. But when I see that as a pitcher, I cringe because, oh, my God, because you're really putting a lot of pressure on something, part of your body, because your body's not coming completely through.
And your elbow as opposed to your legs, and evening it out. Like Seaver did, Robin Roberts, they got way down low.
But they were like what you call a drop and drive pitcher. Not everybody can be a drop and drive pitcher. I mean, Tom Seaver's back leg is when Tom Seaver drove the home plate, his right knee was dirty. He would hit the ground because that's the way he was built to pitch a baseball. I didn't do that, but I did have a bent knee when I landed, so my body can come completely through the strike zone, and you loosen up, you free up the top part of your body. Well, you throw the baseball with your hips and your legs. Don't let anybody ever tell you that. And these guys today are throwing more arm than legs, and they're stronger. I see guys 6'6", 6'7" out there who throw the baseball, and they are actually screwing themselves. And forgive my language there. They're messing. They're not getting the max of their body because they're landing in a straight front leg, and they're like recoiling. Something sooner or later is going to break down. Yeah, the velocity is incredible, but their fastballs are straight as ropes. As a matter of fact, last night I was in Globe Life. I did 3 games with the Rangers and the Tampa Bay Rays, and they have a guy on the Rangers. His name is Matt Bush. Now Matt Bush throws the baseball 98, 99 miles an hour, but his fastball from the side, you can tell, is as straight as a clothesline. The velocity is great, and this kid for the Blue Jays, I watched him, and the Rays. They had 2 outs, nobody on. The game is over. This kid Kiermaier gets up there, first pitch, 98 miles an hour, hits it about 425 feet to right center field, and they tie the game. And you say, whoa, he caught his fastball. Yeah, he did, but there was velocity there, but there wasn't that late hop you get from bending your front knee. Where if you ever see Nolan Ryan throw, Nolan Ryan didn't throw 100 miles an hour. Nolan Ryan threw 95. But it looked like his fastball picked up speed to home plate from the side because he had that late torque in his body from bending his knee. And it looked like it picked up speed and it exploded the home plate. He rode the ball. These guys throw the ball. They don't ride the ball. And by doing that, you're taking pressure off of your elbow, your rotor cuff, and putting more pressure on your back legs and your lat area of your body. I don't know. I would never, no one would ever ask me about that as a pitching coach in the big leagues. I'm a nobody now. I just watch the games from the dugout. But I know for a fact I did this, and I know I'm right. And the maximum velocity thing, the weight thing, and these guys do not throw near enough in spring training and during the season to make their arms pitch in shape. And I've been told that by a number of guys who have been around. Okay.
May I ask you this? What's the difference if somebody threw 95 and their off-speed pitch was, say, 75, as opposed to pitching 100 and your off-speed pitch is 80? In other words, wouldn't you be better off with an off-speed pitch that was more deceptive than
absolutely
trying to go for that extra 5 miles an hour?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing I'm seeing too, if you could throw really, really hard, but if you don't hide the ball properly, a hitter can follow your arms and follow and time you better. Great pitchers that I knew, and I had to learn this too, is you got to hide the ball so the hitter, cannot pick up the ball early in the delivery. Seaver was great at it. Carlton was great at it. And I had to learn how to do that. Most guys had to learn how to do that because we didn't throw the ball 98 miles an hour. I mean, when I pitched in my best days, I was throwing 93, 92, 94 at times. But my ball moved, but I hit the ball. And by doing that, you're holding the ball longer, and the ball, whatever you're throwing, breaks later. And it gives the hitter less time to see the ball. I don't think that's the case today. No way. Because I'm seeing guys turn on fastballs going 97 miles an hour and going down the line, pulling down the line, almost 500 feet. But how are they doing this?
If they know what's coming,
you can see the ball.
And a big league hitter can hit whatever speed it is. But again, if you don't know what's coming and the off-speed pitch is deceptive, that's going to make for a better pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Were you a runner, and are all? Do you think that running is very important, and were there some great pitchers that didn't believe in running?
Well, I don't know about that, but for me personally, if I could do it all over again, I mean, go back in a time machine till I'm 20 years old, okay, and 21 years old, I would have become a stair runner, run the stairs and pump my legs up the stairs and walk down. I did do that a little bit, but we did run a lot more than these guys do today. I watched these guys before the game. A lot of the pitchers, they'll go out to left field or right field with the pitching coach, and they'll run like 4 or 5 sprints. Some of them will, I don't think they near the running that we did. We ran before every single game in the outfield. The pitching coach would line us up at the right field line or the left field line, and we would double up, and we'd run across the whole outfield from foul pole to foul pole at 3/4 speed, sometimes full speed, and the pitching coach would throw us a baseball, and we had to catch the baseball like we were split ends trying to catch a football. And we did that for 15, 16 times.
Makes a game out of it a little bit, too.
And we did it for 15 times across the field. That's unheard of today. Unheard. You will not see that no more. It does not happen. And I'm kind of, maybe these guys just do I'm thinking maybe these guys come early and run early and go out in the field. No, I go to the baseball field early at Minute Maid Park and Globe Life a lot of times to get ready for interviews for certain things, and I see very few pitchers out there. If they're out there, they'll jog around the field a little bit, and that's it, going in. Everything's different now. Everything is different now. My legs were rocks when I pitched. I looked to pitch 9 innings every time I went out there. Of course, I didn't.
Every time, but you did a lot of times.
Every single time. Every time I wanted to pitch 9 innings. I didn't care.
How many complete games are there? That's another thing that we look at.
Well, honestly, Ralph, you got to follow the money. You got to follow the money trail here. It's a different game now.
The relief pitchers,
and these guys today, I've watched them. I watch games, and I sit there and I go, what is going on here? I've seen pitchers go out there and leave after the 5th inning with a shutout and sit down or give up 2 runs and they're done because everything's pitch count now. That's the new deal. Everything's pitch count. They actually post the pitch count on the scoreboards all game long for both teams.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know where that came from.
And they post the velocity, and they're going to start, I'm sure, posting the exit velocity as well, which just shows you the priority of what fans are looking for. And I don't think a fan like Mert and I, if we went to a game when we were kids and we saw a 1-0 nail biter, God, that'd be great. But
no more. You're not going to see that. You might see that if Keuchel goes against Kershaw. You might see that as a top pitcher of each team is allowed to go out and go 9 innings, a 1-0-0 game in the 9th inning. You might, in this trend today, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Right.
No.
Okay,
I think that's
turn
the
you over to
thing.
Mert, but I want
Okay.
to ask you one last question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then Marty's going to take it.
Good.
You mentioned Don McMahon as
yeah.
a pitching coach. Who was the best? You could say next to Don McMahon. Who was the best, most effective pitching coach for Pete Falcone in his career? Minors or majors? Coming up,
pitching coach,
college, junior high school. Who taught you the most? Could have been your dad.
Who taught me the most? As a young boy, of course, my dad. My dad was a pitcher. In the big leagues, I'd have to say for the most knowledge of pitching, the one I really think about the most was Rube. Now, and Rube was a catcher. Don't get me wrong; he was a catcher for in the 40s, in the 50s. But Rube was the kind of guy that left you alone. If you saw something, he'd pick it out. But you were more or less on your own back then. I don't know what it's like now. I just don't know. But you were more or less on your own. You had to doctor yourself and have other pitchers around you who work with each other and talk pitching. And you really had to be your own pitching coach. I guess that's the way it is today too. You really had to be your own pitching coach. But that
wasn't how it was in the minors. So anybody in the minors.
In the minor leagues, when I played with the Giants, I didn't even need a pitching coach because I was just naturally very, very good, and everything about me was all natural. I had great mechanics, I had great stuff, and all they had to do was give me the baseball and go out there and pitch. And we had some pitching coaches like Frank Funk. I was also in the time of Carl Hubble was a pitching coordinator when I was in the Giants, and these guys didn't say two words to you. They didn't say nothing to you. I remember that. I'm not putting them down, but I just think that you had to be your own pitching coach in a way and take care of yourself because nobody else was really. But in the big leagues, they were all good in their own way. Claude Osteen was a great pitching coach. Even Bob Gibson, who was one of my coaches, a pitching coach, he in certain ways would be a good pitching coach for certain situations and certain people. But all in all, Rube and Don McMahon encourages. They tell you. Lou Brock was a great encouragement to me when I played because these guys built you up. They didn't tear you down. They didn't tell you this and you're that. They built you up. Former players. I've had former pitchers come to me and help me in my career and tell me certain things. So it's a little bit of everything.
With the Cardinals, did you ever get a chance to meet Hub Kittle?
Yeah, Hub was one of the coaches when I was on the Cardinal team. Hub was a Cardinal. Yeah.
Was he?
I don't remember him being much of a
so legendary. Was there anything that stood out?
Well, Hub was another one of those guys encouraged. He was more or less for the hitter than the pitcher. But I remember one time, I actually remember this, he would sit with me in the Cardinal, somewhere in the Cardinal clubhouse, there was a video room back then, and we looked at pictures, like video from behind home plate, and we were looking, because he tried, and we were talking about things, and he showed me videos. And that's what I remember of Hub Kittle, but he was a good baseball man that everybody respected, at the time. And then when I got traded, it was a different story,
I understand. Marty Rose, take it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I just want to mention one thing about last night's Met game. Jacob deGrom, who's been basically the best pitcher for a while now, comes out last night and he's got nothing. He's got 0. Gives up 2 runs in the first inning. Run in the third inning. By the time he leaves, it's like 6-0. Now, the previous game, he threw 118 pitches. Collins put him out there even in the 9th inning. Now, this guy had not thrown, I'm sure, more than maybe 105, 108. They never let him throw that many pitches. And then after the game, somebody brings up, gee, do you think that had something to do with it? No, of course he said, no, I just stunk today. But I don't believe that for a second. It's the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that he had nothing. So
in the first inning.
they left him out there too long.
About that in the first inning, Marty.
Were you at the game? You were there?
No, I was watching the game. I was watching the game, but I mean, it's just there has to be a difference when you're used to throwing X amount of pitches in a game, max maybe 105, and all of a sudden it's up to 118. You can't tell me
I
that,
know what
that
Collins wanted, a symbolic complete game. He let him start the ninth hoping he'd get 3 quick outs. And it's true where the Mets were at that time. Remember, that game was muy importante, Mert.
Yeah.
What you're saying is last night he gave up 6 runs early and stayed in the game till the 9th inning?
No.
That was the game before.
The game prior. I'm sorry. His previous start, he pitched very well. And they should have taken him out after the 8th inning. Because I believe he was already over 100 pitches. I was shocked when they put him out there for the 9th inning. And by the time, he could not finish. And by the time they took him out, he had thrown 118 pitches. And then yesterday, which was his next start, he had nothing, 0. So
how much time did he have between starts? Did he have 6 days, 5 days?
He had, before the start that he threw 118 pitches, I believe he had 2 extra days rest. But last night he was on regular rest. I'm pretty sure he was on regular rest.
Yeah, it's a 5-man rotation. It's 4 days.
Oh, they have a 5-man rotation, and sometimes they have an off day, so they'll get an extra day. Who knows? I mean, he's a big boy. I never met the guy or seen him. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
That's what. He's like
when you used
in a way, right?
But when you're used to throwing a certain amount and then you're, at least 10 or more over, I mean, that has to put extra stress. And
let me tell you this, and I would tell any pitching coach in the big leagues today, and whether they want to listen to me, they'll probably blow me off. These guys do not throw enough in spring training. They don't get enough innings in spring training. Do you know when I pitched, even with the Mets on our bad years in spring training, we got 30 to 35 innings before the season started. Every pitcher I knew in a starting rotation with the Mets or any other team, we all had a chance to go out there before the season started to go 9 innings. Mm. And we were conditioned to do that. And you think some of these guys leave some of these starting pitchers I know leave spring training throwing 10, 12 innings. They don't throw enough. They're not in pitching shape. And it takes a while to understand that. And I think it's the fear of guys breaking down and getting hurt and getting Tommy John surgery. So it's a vicious circle. Sandy, I know I was talking to Claude Osteen one day, and he said every spring training the Dodgers made sure you went at least 9 innings and left you out there. It might be your last start of spring training to go 9 innings. Didn't mean much in terms of record, but you get your arm conditioned to go that far. And I know I've thrown 135, 40 pitches. I pitched many times throwing like that many pitches, 150 pitches in games where I would go 9 innings. And as a big league player, as a pitcher, even in the minor leagues, when I was in the minor leagues, I pitched 9 innings almost every time I pitched. And that was when I was 19, 20 years old, pitching for Fresno and Great Falls, Montana. That is that's totally unheard of today. They would never let you do that.
Well, now they've got a innings count. How many innings a guy should pitch for the whole season? So I guess they don't want to use them all up in spring training. But that doesn't sound like, from what you're saying, maybe they go into the season unprepared. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Let me tell you this. I remember one game that I pitched in the minor leagues. I was in the Giants and I played for Fresno, and I pitched 10 innings one day. My first start for the Giants, I was looking at it recently. I pitched 10 innings and I had 17 strikeouts. So how many balls do you think I threw that night?
17.
Think about that. I was 19 years old, maybe 20. I was 20 years old, and no one even thought about this.
John DeQuisto pitched 250 innings in the minors.
Yeah.
He was 20 freaking years old.
Yeah.
So,
and I got to tell you, thank God, my arm today is as sound as it is as when I was 25 years old. I have no bone spurs. I have no chips. I have no scars. And because I learned how to throw. And we threw a lot.
and you're
Jim
one of the
Cott
few
threw every single day.
retired athletes that doesn't wake up in pain. Is that what you're saying?
You know, no, I don't, Ralph. I do not wake up in pain from a bad shoulder or a bad elbow. No, I do not.
That's a wonderful way to be in retirement. The money, the pension notwithstanding, being pain-free is quality of life, and that's very important. A lot of times athletes sell their souls with a whole bunch of different reasons, but they give away their future mobility. I remember when Koufax retired, what he said, I want to be able to lift my kid up someday. I'm going to look.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you, Pete. That's
I am too. You know, Sandy didn't have to retire. I found out he just didn't want to deal with the pain. He could have continued to pitch, but he would have had that pain. And it wasn't because he didn't throw properly. It was just a physical thing with him and his elbow and his bone and the arthritis thing. I'm 63 years old right now.
You just didn't want to deal with the pain. The pain.
No, it was a pain.
Incredibly excruciating. That's a biggie.
I don't know how these modern day people would deal with Sandy Koufax if they knew what his arm was all about. They probably would have shut him down for a whole season. I don't know. But I wish I'm 63 years old right now, and I wish I can actually throw the ball again, go out there and throw. I think the pitchers would be amazed what I could still do with a baseball because I threw a lot. And that's just the bottom line.
There are senior leagues, and Jim Barr, another former teammate of yours.
I played with him.
Right. He plays and I don't know if he's still playing. He coaches up in Sacramento at Sac State. And
he does.
He played in a senior league, an over 40 league for a lot of years. And because I am curious as how does a professional athlete deal with the lack of competition when you retire? I'm sure on some levels, every 5 days the motor is running.
Yeah, that's true. I try to play golf to be competitive. Okay. I did play in some senior leagues. I did play in some over 40, over 50 leagues for a while. There's a league in Florida called the Roy Hobbs League. It's a great league. Friends of mine from New York played it, and I went down there and played. But I don't have an opportunity where I live. I live in Louisiana, and I don't have an opportunity to really go out there and get in shape to pitch, which is really – it takes a while to get in shape to pitch. So that's why I don't do it no more. I'll just swing a golf club here and there,
Okay. What brought you to Louisiana and what
compared
to living –
Coaching. I managed a minor league baseball team here years ago, independent league, and then I coached a couple of years of college ball. And I just stayed here, never left. My kids were small. I just put roots down, and I said, I'm not going to move my children around. Now they're all gone, and I'm still here.
Right. Hey, this has been terrific, Pete. I hope you'll come
back
been
wonderful.
sometime.
I
hope if you enjoyed it anywhere near as much as we did, then
you got my cell phone number, right?
I do indeed. And
please call me anytime.
Thank you very much. Mert, anything you want to add, ask?
Maybe one more thing about when you were on the Mets, your last season, 1982. Some of the kids started to come up that would be on the winning team in 1986.
That's right.
Could you spot anything from those guys back then, like Backman and Mookie and guys like that?
Yeah, you know what was good about the bad years for the Mets, those finishing last place? They got the first round picks, if I recall. Right? Remember that?
That's right.
So really,
that's right.
Right. We were like the fertilizer of the new guys coming up. Those guys, you finish last and then here you go. You have Darryl Strawberry, you have Mookie Wilson, and those guys were very, very good ball players. I played with Wally and I played with Mookie, I didn't get a chance to play with Darryl because my last year at the Mets, I think he had signed in 81 or 82. I don't remember, but he came to the clubhouse and we met him. He was a skinny kid from L.A. But then I think the next year he came up. But that's what happened.
He had Gardenhire on that team.
Yep.
And,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
You know, I tell you what, the Mets made some great trades back then when they got Gary Carter, they got Keith Hernandez.
Oh yeah.
And that was really, and those guys gelled, and that was it. Lenny Dykstra back then, sure.
Yep.
The guy that didn't get to play on the championship team was a guy that I think you played with, Ubi Brooks. Do you have any recollection of him?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact,
any stories about Ubi? Because I don't know much about him.
Well, Ubi Brooks came up. I think maybe it was 81 or 82.
Yeah, he was on the 81 and 82 teams. Yeah.
Yes, he came up. He was playing third base. He was young. He had a lot of talent, and the talent was there. But unfortunately, back then there was no big leader. We didn't have a Adrian Beltre. We didn't have a guy that just everybody clung to, like a Lou Brock or Willie Stargell. So everybody had to go out there and fend for themselves. We did have George Foster and Dave Kingman, but those guys were great guys, but they stuck to themselves. They didn't try to be leaders. They just went out there and tried to hang on to their careers.
Ellis
not faulting them. Ellis too. Not faulting these guys, but
right.
Ubi played and he battled, and I think he had some good years in the year with the Mets. But then they traded him to the Royals, if I remember, and that was it.
I think it was Montreal.
Montreal. Okay, yeah. You see, when Gary Carter got there, and Keith was a leader on the field. Keith was a take charge guy, and Gary Carter was a catcher. We didn't have that when I was in the Mets. We did not have that kind of thing.
Nope.
We had no Tom Seaver, no Kuzman. We had no Tug McGraw. Everybody was on their own trying to survive.
Well, should some of that come from the coaching and the managing staff? I'm just giving No. It doesn't happen that way.
Maybe now, I don't know, but when I played, you didn't have that. You
got to have
players.
Leaders in the clubhouse, right? Yeah.
You had to have a Carl Yastrzemski. You had to have a Joe DiMaggio. You had to have a Willie Stargell, an Al Kaline. We didn't have that, and I think that hurt us a little bit. We had it in St. Louis. We kind of had a little bit in San Francisco and Atlanta. We had Dale Murphy, Phil Necro. We had Bob Watson. So we had that kind of thing, but not in New York. You were lucky to get 1,000 people to the games back then. 2,000 people would come out and watch you play. You
took your New York accent to Louisiana. You didn't lose that. You got your New York.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
We got 3 states going. I'm in California. Marty's in Florida, and you're in Louisiana.
Oh, Marty, you're in Florida. What part of Florida are you at?
Yeah, I'm in Jacksonville, actually.
Oh,
Jacksonville.
Okay.
So I just retired about 15 months ago. So,
okay, great.
Right now I'm in Virginia visiting my daughter and my new granddaughter. So yeah.
Oh,
great!
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good nachos, Mert.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll be back next week, same time, same bat station. Actually, it'll be a different time. But thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Yeah, and call me anytime you want to.
I will. Thanks, Pete.
Okay.
And
thank you, Pete.
Mert,
Pleasure.
Keep hanging in there, my friend.
Okay, Ralph. Next time.
Of 67 years.
Wow.
Something like that.
Something like that. Almost.
Hey, Pete, we were in the 2nd grade together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Imagine how much fun this is.
Jackson Heights.
2 Jackson Heights kids. That's right.
Where'd you guys go to high school?
Newtown.
We went to Newtown High School.
Interesting.
In Elmhurst, yeah.
Elmhurst. Oh.
You went to high school.
I was a Lafayette.
Lafayette,
I was
right?
Lafayette alumni. Yeah.
Sandy Koufax's school, and
and Johnny Franco and Louis Lopez and Benny DiStefano, myself. Yeah. Yes.
Wow. good borough to grow up in, but Queens is very underrated, sir.
I know that. I know that.
But I'm not knocking Brooklyn.
Well, Archbishop Malloy was a big school back then when I was playing.
Oh, yeah. That, yes, they were. Thanks, guys. Next week
All right,
it
guys.
is. All right.
Take it easy.
Talk to you soon, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Keep on keeping on, everybody. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.